Of all the different types of brass instruments I've reviewed on this channel, I've done quite a few baritone horns, and this is no exception to the count. It is a vintage 3-valve baritone horn, sounds pretty run-of-the-mill, but why is it that I enjoy this horn so much more than some of the others I've played? Stick around to find out. Hey there everybody, welcome to the Samuel Plays Brass YouTube channel. To any of the old hats in the audience, welcome back. Today we're at Clearwater Music Center examining this King Cleveland baritone from the late 1970s according to the serial number. This instrument was due for a cleaning, and as I tested it and put it back together, I realized it was a lot of fun to play. If you want to hear how this horn sounds and why I like it so much, make sure to stick around and leave a like on the video and subscribe if you enjoy. I've reviewed several King instruments on the channel, a pretty mediocre 600 level trumpet, a fairly mediocre B-flat tuba, 3 valves, standard kind of deal. But there have also been some King instruments that have really impressed me, and this student model baritone is definitely one of them. I really enjoy playing this instrument, and it's a super free-blowing and responsive horn, and I think it encapsulates, as far as American baritones go, the true baritone sound. There are a lot of baritones that start to blend into the euphonium side of things, because in America, there's not as much of a differentiation between baritone and euphonium as, for instance, in the UK, where you have two completely different instruments. But I think this instrument, despite it being fairly open-wrapped and fairly open-sounding and having the ability to play with a mellow sound, it really has the baritone sound. In my opinion, the baritone sound fits best on marches and that type of music, and this instrument really is no exception. I'll play a few march excerpts throughout the video, and you'll hear that this instrument really sings in that setting, especially with this mouthpiece on it. This is a Conn 3. It's a pretty generic vintage low brass mouthpiece, and it really gives this instrument a brighter, lighter, more responsive sort of sound. I'll also demonstrate a little bit with a Blessing 51D, so you can hear a little bit of a deeper, richer, more mellow sound on some of the excerpts, and I'll make sure to specify in which excerpt which mouthpiece is being used. With most brass instruments, you really need to spend some quality time figuring out the tendencies of the instrument and figure out where the intonation and the slotting lies on each particular horn. It's an unfortunate consequence of only being able to touch horns for maybe an hour at the end of my shift here at Clearwater, but I can't always provide the best assessment on intonation. But I will say this is a very forgiving horn with very consistent tendencies throughout the register. As long as you have your tuning slide set to about there for deeper mouthpieces, and maybe about to there for shallower ones, you shouldn't have too many issues. These vintage baritones sometimes have pretty high pitch centers to where you have to have the tuning slide out a lot on the main tuning slide. but it's not a huge deal. If you've watched many of my low brass videos, you'll know I'm not a huge range fanatic on low brass. I have the range on trumpet, I certainly don't on low brass, but I think this instrument really has this golden register kind of between low B flat and high B flat. All the notes up there really have a ringing quality to them. I don't like playing notes above that on baritones or euphoniums particularly much, and I find them to be a little bit stuffy on this instrument, but like I said, there's that golden zone of about 2 to 2.5 octaves. Also, if you count kind of going down from low B flat, none of those notes are particularly bad. Pedals are pretty barky, as you would imagine on most baritones. This baritone has a fairly large bell, it's probably about 10 or 11 inches. So in that respect, the pedals project nicely and have a lot of volume to them. They're obviously not the warmest, richest sounding low notes, but you know, just for a bit of fun, I'll demonstrate that as well. Overall, I don't have any complaints about the response throughout the registers of this instrument. It really is an easy, free-blowing instrument to play and a lot of fun in that regard. A real make-it-or-break-it factor with vintage low brass is valve quality. It's a real toss-up as to whether you get perfect valves or absolutely demolished valves with your low brass instrument. You can tell these valves have been through the mill because each of the finger buttons is a little bit different in style. This one doesn't even have a pearl inlay. But to be honest, the valves feel really nice on this instrument. They're very quick. Those strokes are pretty long. You'll find much shorter valve strokes on some vintage low brass instruments, but I don't mind the long strokes with this level of performance from the valves. As mentioned previously, I haven't always had stellar experiences with King instruments. A couple of them have been pretty hard to play, kind of stuffy, out of tune, nasally sounding, and just generally not a lot of fun. So this Cleveland baritone was a real treat. What a pleasant surprise. I picked this up, I plugged the mouthpiece in, I played a few notes from First Suite, and I was in love. I've played a lot of baritone horns, right? And while I don't know if this can unseat the Reynolds Contempora or the Conn 14i, it is right up there with my favorites. It is a real joy to play. I'm so glad I was able to take this instrument and take some time out of my day and get to know it a little bit better and show you guys. I hope you enjoyed this review. If you want to see more like it, you can check out my instrument reviews playlist. That'll be in the top right corner, linked as a card. Thanks again so much for watching. This has been Samuel Plays Brass with the King Cleveland Baritone. Excuse me? Technical difficulties aside, this has been Samuel Plays Brass reviewing the late 1970s King Cleveland Baritone. Thanks again so much for watching, and until next time, we'll see you on the flip side.